Thank you, Bruce. It is great to be here with you, although as a senator speaking about oceans and climate change in front of this audience, I'm feeling a little daunted. The pressure is on not only because my dean from URI's Graduate School of Oceanography is listening, but because my spouse is actually a trained GSO graduate, PhD marine scientist is listening. So I'm going to have to work really hard not to screw up too badly. But I'm very happy to be here, and it's so important to have forums like this where policymakers and scientists can come together and help to get the word out and work on solutions to the problems that face our oceans. Your theme this year is resilient oceans, and amateurs tend to take the resilience of the oceans for granted. They are enormous. They seem endless. We find enormous spiritual solace in being near the oceans. It would seem hard to imagine that little mankind could be having the effect on them that we are, but indeed we are. The oceans have absorbed more than 90% of the excess heat that our greenhouse gases have trapped on planet Earth, and a quarter every year of the carbon dioxide that humans emit. The journal Nature Climate Change published a study showing that the oceans have absorbed as much energy from this just since 1997 as they had in the previous 130 years. An AP news story wrote this up and used an interesting analogy. Since 1997, they said, Earth's oceans have absorbed man-made heat energy equivalent to a Hiroshima-style bomb being exploded every second for 75 straight years. The absorption of the excess carbon dioxide is, of course, leading to ocean acidification, a change in ocean chemistry that is particularly harmful to organisms at the base of the marine food chain. If organisms like the pteropod collapse, then what falls in on top of them is an alarming unknown. Research on the effects of ocean acidification on shellfish and on other marine life are barely able to keep up with the pace at which the ocean is acidifying. Sea levels are rising, and warmer ocean waters are fueling stronger storms and changing weather patterns. Fish stocks shift towards the poles as species chase cooler water. The waters of off of Rhode Island were once home to bountiful supplies of winter flounder and lobster. We've seen those species disappear due to a combination of changing ocean conditions and fishing pressures. When I started here in the Senate, less than 10 years ago, if I went down to the fishing docks at our fishing port of Galilee and tried to speak to Rhode Island fishermen about climate change, I was as likely to be thrown off the dock as listened to. Now, fishermen are coming to me, and they're saying, what the hell is going on? We're catching cobia. We're catching mahi-mahi. We're catching grouper. 40% of Northeast fishermen surveyed in 2015 reported catching new fish species they don't usually see in their regular fishing grounds. It's not my grandfather's ocean, said one to me. Sheldon, it's getting weird out there, is what another fisherman said. That weird is becoming the new normal. In Rhode Island, Narragansett Bay is already up about 4 degrees mean winter water temperature in the last 50 years, and sea levels at the tide gauge at Newport Naval Station are up nearly 10 inches since 1930. Since 1993, this global sea level rise has accelerated at a rate approximately double the average rate observed through the 20th century. By 2100, we could easily see 3 to 4 feet of sea level rise and potentially 6, 7, even 8 feet of sea level rise. The proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences recently reported global sea levels are rising at their fastest rate in nearly 3,000 years. That study also estimated that about half of the 20th century sea level rise would not have occurred absent global warming. On top of all the global warming and acidification issues, we are choking our seas with millions of tons of plastic and other debris. A recent study by the World Economic Forum estimated that by weight, there could be more plastic in the ocean than fish by 2050. That year, 2050, is also predicted to be the year when we see 99% of the world's seabird species affected by plastic ingestion. Marine debris, mostly in the form of plastic, has already been found to affect nearly 700 different species. Newport is the home of the U.S. stop of the Volvo Ocean Race, which is perhaps the most dangerous and difficult sporting endeavor on the planet. The racers on the Volvo Ocean Race now not only practice man overboard drills, they practice keel clearing drills to get the plastic debris they picked up, even in faraway southern oceans, off of the boat, damaging their ship's performance. Dr. Jenna Jambak wrote a seminal paper that found that over 50% of the plastic that enters the ocean from land comes from just 5 countries: China, Indonesia, the Philippines, Vietnam, and Sri Lanka. As consumption increases in these rapidly developing economies, their collection and waste management infrastructure has not kept up. We need innovative solutions that look at the full waste management chain, from product development to the end of life in a waste facility, in order to mitigate the flow of plastic from land to sea. Though the oceans indeed face many challenges, we are beginning to get more serious about facing them. Our Senate Oceans Caucus recently added 7 new Republican members, bringing us to 30 members. Last year, through the bipartisan efforts of this caucus, we passed the Illegal, Unreported, and Unregulated Fishing Enforcement Act of 2015. We had previously passed 4 treaties that supported the IUU treaty. Passing 4 treaties in an afternoon may not seem like much in the United States Senate, but to go back to the last 4 treaties that were passed, you have to span 9 years of time. So 4 treaties in an afternoon was an accomplishment. The other top priorities that we're working on in the Senate Oceans Caucus are ocean data monitoring and, of course, marine debris. Last December, we saw some good legislative action as the Microbead-Free Waters Act of 2015 was signed into law, prohibiting the use of plastic microbeads in face washes, toothpaste, and other cosmetics. I'm also glad to report that the dream of an ocean fund is slowly becoming a reality. This past year, a version of my bill, the National Ocean and Coastal Security Act, became law. We still have work ahead to secure permanent funding for it, but establishing the fund, authorizing it in our laws, is a significant achievement. To secure the future of our coasts and oceans, we need to learn not to be just takers, but to be caretakers. Congress right now is too often captive to the outsized influence of the fossil fuel industry, particularly with the new weaponry that the Citizens United decision, the unfortunate Supreme Court decision unleashing unlimited, undisclosed political spending, has given to that industry to wreak its will. The polluters spend huge amounts to influence our elections and to sow uncertainty about climate science, very much like the way the tobacco companies sowed uncertainty about the health effects of tobacco. But the actual effects of carbon pollution on the oceans are very hard to deny, which is usually why the climate deniers never talk about the oceans. The prospects for change are getting realer every day. I am trying to do my part. I came here from the Senate immediately, having delivered number 130 in my Time to Wake Up series of climate change speeches, urging that the Republicans say yes to their own recommendation of a carbon fee as the way to solve the climate change problem. But nobody can tackle this issue alone. We all have to pull together. And I going to close these remarks by asking you to do what you can in your circles of influence to reach out to your congressmen and senators and make sure they know how serious you are about this. Also to reach out to community and corporate leaders in your home states. I can tell you about the habitat that I inhabit, Congress. In the habitat I inhabit, there is one super predator, and that is the fossil fuel industry on the subject of climate change. No other corporate lobbying takes place on climate. Even the best companies in the country on climate change, the Pepsis, the Walmarts, the VF Industries, the Marses, the Unilevers, none of them expend an ounce of powder in Congress fighting for what they believe. They have given up, but they don't need to. And if they were to come in now, it would tip the balance and make the difference. We can get this done. But the hydraulics of the politics are that it's all fossil fuel and nobody else. The rest of corporate America now must step up. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for what you do to make sure that what our fishermen and what our sailors and what the scientists who work the sea and all of us who love the sea know to be true is communicated more broadly so that we can make the difference that must be made. Thank you very, very much.